And just find yourself one more time before you start in, and then sinking into that right foot. The left foot comes out and back to the rocking motion again. And just start to drop into the familiarity of it. You'll find that as you do this and it starts opening up areas in your body, you might feel more and more sort of energy movement, of kind of the release of holdings, and to just make sure that you keep coming back to finding the surfaces of how your feet are moving across the floor, the surfaces of how your hands are feeling that heavy air that's always there around you, and the internal sense of surfaces that you feel with the movement of your belly and lower back, your wrists, and just that connecting into the presence of the Dan Qian that helps anchor the movement. We'll do 2 more, so up and back, and 1 more time. And of course, as we come up, you come into that right foot, left foot comes up and in. You might start to notice the familiarity of things that you focused on more, for example, just in the perpetual motion taffy, that then inform your movement of things like the rocking motion. And then we'll go into bird flaps its wings. And so here we start to gather that charge right in front of us, and then sink onto the balls of your feet with your heels slightly lifting. Second time. And then here comes the wrist circles again, around, around, and in. And just see if you can find each moment a sense of connection. Often we'll notice that there have been places in the movement where we've just kind of skipped over. They were kind of blank, and to see how much you can be in the sense of intentionality, of meaningfulness in this. And the third time, out, out, and sinking it around, and in and above the waist, and rest. Yeah, just let all that movement happen. All right, so let's go into our first forward stepping movement of the platter. Sinking into that right again, your foot comes forward, over the front foot with your circle, back over the back foot. Just start to look for the gentleness in the movement. Feel what it's like to be moving into a rhythm and a pace in community, that you're connecting even through this Zoom interface with other people, all joining with this movement together. And just start to feel that sense of how you can be connected in community. Finding that connection through the heels of your hands as you go forward, trailing a bit through your fingers as you come back. And just letting this movement really help you get a sense of how the Dan Qian leads the movement forward and even back. And 1 more time we'll come around, so that there's no part in this that has urgency. And back. And at the second side, forward over the front foot, back over the back foot. And just gradually, as you drop into the movement, noticing each place where you can just slow down a bit more, to drop out of doing, out of being performative, and just let this wonderful rhythm just reconnect you to the deeper rhythms of life within you. So you can feel how the life and the air around you is there, just holding and supporting your movement. This will be our last time around. And coming back. And sinking. And then the platter variation, stepping forward. And then, once you've got that connection of the starting place, then start to gather and release, so that there's a meaningfulness in this for you, this gathering and releasing. What needs to be gathered and released that connects from within the core of your being to the sense of the world around you? How does this stir the sense of energetic movement through the world, both within you and around you, so that you really have a chance to start to feel more of the engagement. We'll do 2 more. One more time around. Forward. And then coming back and just feeling that lengthening in your lower back as your foot just starts to find how it can just float up. The more and more there's a sense of connection, the more it'll be a less of an effort. And then sinking into the left, your right foot comes forward, and then forward over your front foot, back over your back foot. So that there's just this preciousness and gentleness that starts to emerge out of the movements. It starts to awaken in the cells, that the life within each vibrating molecule within you starts to feel how this movement engages with the life of each vibrating molecule around you. We'll do 2 more. And 1 more time around, back and then forward. Giving yourself to the movement, and then back, and your foot lifts. Nice. And then we build that charge between our hands with the bass drum, so letting your hands come up into their starting position, your fingers just heading towards the ceiling, and then down toward the floor. So this lateral movement of your wrists starts to get woken up. And then as you start to work into the movement, see if you can find the sense of connection. That sense of an answer within your body to wondering, so why am I here in this particular place? How do I bring myself to this place? And what answers to me bringing myself a little more fully into this moment, into this movement. so that each movement becomes precious, each moment in the movement. We'll do 2 more. Back and forward 1 more time, following the pace of the movement, and then closing. And then the second side. And forward. Really giving yourself a chance to feel how there's a lengthening that can happen out of that back leg as you go forward. And that connects to the arching in your lower back. So that line up the back of your body has a chance to feel itself, right from the heel, right up through your spine into the neck. So you can really feel how that line kind of connects and arches this way, and then as you come back, gives a chance to really lengthen as you come back again. And as that lengthening happens as you come back again, that it shortens up through the front. We'll come through 1 more time. And back. Good. And then we start into the first of the daughters, the daughter on the mountaintop. So, opening with the hands, it's just a really simple opening like this, and just let yourself feel how that is. And then forward with your left hand on the inside. And how the connection between all this movement that happens from the elbow down and through the wrists, with very minimal movement happening through the upper arms and into the shoulders, really helps you get a sense of how this movement connects with opening from the center and then closing and then drawing down through the center. Forward. And as you come back, 8, 1 more time. Here we go, forward and back. We have somebody else who's trying to come in, Rebecca? And opening on the second side, and still the left hand is on the inside. There's so many pieces to this that are embedded in millennia of practice. And so the question of why the left hand on the inside, why is that focus on the left so commonly there in these kind of Eastern practices? And the answer so often is to just let yourself feel it. Let it work itself on you, and it becomes its own answer. 2 more will do. And opening, gathering, and forward, and back, and closing as you come around. So you can see how all these movements, like the coming and closing like this, it's kind of got that same sense of the wrist circles taffy. There's kind of like something coming over and down, that each hand movement connects with something moving through the core. And then the daughter in the valley, hands coming up and open, Very different feel than coming down and open, right? Up and open, so really let yourself feel what it's like to start from that place and gathering the charge and then releasing it upward. Bring it up from the ground and releasing it upward. Up through the core of your being and out through the top. And the more you deepen with the practice, the more you can visit back to each part of it and to notice that there's something more you can feel about that gathering with your hands, more you can feel about the opening. That it starts to have a deepening, a dropping, and an increase of sense of connecting, both within you and to the surrounding world. We'll do 2 more. Forward and coming back and close. And then the second side, opening, sinking, foot forward and down and up. So where is the sense of engagement on this side? Are there places where you've been a little shut out of yourself that you start to notice? Places that you might be able to invite into the movement a little more. It starts to color in the places where your sense of being have been a little vague. Just start to really let the movements awaken you to those parts of your being. We'll do 2 more. Release, round gathering, and here we come forward one last time. Committing to the movement, opening, and graceful conclusion. Good. So now we get to carry the ball to the side, so I'll give myself a little bit of room for that. And actually I can see it starting to get a little dark here. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to give myself a little more light. See if that helps. Maybe even a little bit here. There we go. Yeah, that works. Don't want to give myself too much glow down on top of my head. So here we go. So we are going to do our wind up, right, from our beginning place. So here we go, winding up, the 2 hands holding that nerve ball, sinking into that right foot. Left foot comes out. You can see it's very similar to that perpetual motion taffy. Bring my toe up, my foot comes out, and I'm staying very much on this side. So it's a really good place, that perpetual motion taffy, to now come back and revisit, carry the ball to the side and start to understand it a little bit more, because you've now seen this movement through a different perspective. And then we come across and close with our right foot coming in. Briefest moment of pause, sinking, sweeping, and stepping out again. 1. And of course that back hand is a little more substantial here. 2. And the fingers to the ceiling, the fingers to the floor, so that that lateral movement as you close, that lateral movement that you started introducing with the bass drum, also gets worked on here in a sort of a gentle way of fingers to the ceiling, fingers to the floor, and just helping to slowly awaken your wrists to how movement might want to come through them more fluidly. And closing, slightest pause, and we're starting across again. So now winding up to the left, stepping across. And back. And just feeling that connection between your hands. What asks for your connection there? And then coming up and in, and then letting it go, and then gathering it again, winding up to the left, stepping out to the right. So that you have a sense of that there's something, not just inanimate there, something that's personal and precious to you that you gather, and then closing here, and then just release back to the world. And one more time, gather and step across. And a third time around, holding it, holding it, holding it up to your shoulder as it brings your leg in, and then releasing to your resting position. And then I'll just come back to the center a little bit again. Now we come back to our forward back movements of push-pull. So here we are. I sink, my foot comes forward and my hands come up and down and forward. With my right hand as the hand that has a little bit more engagement with it, a little bit more awareness. It's not that it's pushing more, it's just that you notice it more, and somehow as it becomes more substantial, it helps you connect through the left side or the right side as you come forward. And then just finding how this moves through space, both with your hands, but then internally as well. How does that connect these movements so that you're moving from your being and towards your being? We'll do two more here. And forward and back. Close. Nice. And then sinking into the left, and the right foot comes forward. Now the left hand is a little more substantial. Just as you go forward, just right here. And even with the turning of your hand, like in the beginning of your movement and at the end of the push, turning into a coming back in, that there's something in that connecting. How are you in that returning, both in front of your chest and out at the end of the movement? We'll do two more. Just really feeling how this can engage with your dantian. And back. And then pulling in the energy. So this is, just feel how does this hand, how do these hands come up into this place? What happens within my body? And then how does that support me, and kind of how my foot comes forward? What's it like to be in this place? And then forward over the forward foot. And then at this point, coming right through the tips, the very tips of your fingers. So even as you draw back, you can feel that idea that there's something about a pulling in from the farthest star. There's an energetic connection that happens through those fingers that has that very subtle and yet very profound sense of connection. And then to start to get a sense of, so how does that organize my body? How do I organize within my body that's different for this style of movement? So that I'm joining into it as a whole organism. We'll come around one more time, just giving yourself a last chance to really feel what it's like to be in this movement. And then coming back. Okay. And then sinking into the second one, just feeling how that rising of your hands connects within your own body, and then forward around the forward foot. So that in the end, from the subtlety of the connection, from your fingertips through to the connections of your feet to the floor, you're feeling how each part of the movement in each place within you contributes to the movement of the rest of the whole. That they all participate as a community. And as their voices all start to find their sense of connectedness, there's a deepening. Just as we're all finding our connectedness, inevitably, there's a sense of deepening because we are joining in this together. We'll come around one more time. And close. Okay. Now we go into the tafis. So I'm just going to come just a little bit to the sides. So here we go with our start, and then the wind up to the right, stepping out, and just feeling that connection. And here's where we really have a chance to get that first anchoring of that heel the hand down, and then the closing. And then coming and winding up to the left, and stepping out to the right. And closing. Second time across. Just really letting yourself have this kind of movement. There's something very powerful about this kind of opening and anchoring. Winding up, 2. And this movement will slowly invite you to drop a little bit more into the perineum, into the bottom of your pelvis, so that you really start to get a sense of how there's this moving across from a deeper place that is deep in the core of your being, and what they would call in yoga the mula bandha area, the foundation. And one more time coming back, opening that charge of energy between the two hands and closing. Okay. And then the anchor tafi, so we turn, and we know we're going to turn in a little bit more as our foot goes forward, and then the toe drops across. So there's a real sense of how that heel of that hand can really anchor that whole opening movement. And then we come across and close. Same thing the other way. Winding up, cross to the left, stepping forward to the right, then turning in, forward, opening, and close. Turning, and now we go across. And close. Second time. And as we open, that anchoring of the hand, it's almost like how a whirling dervish anchors the center of their movement by having that one hand down that provides the eye, the center of the hurricane. That anchoring hand does a very similar thing for you. As you come forward, it provides the pivot point right here as you turn and open and then close. Winding up and across. And one last set, turning in, your foot comes forward, and across and close, and sideways with your foundation movement. And close, and one last forward movement. Just give yourself the sweetness of this. And close, and sideways one last time. Just really let yourself have the sweetness of it, as fully as you can. And close. There. Good. And now we come into our new tapis. So dropping down, wrist circles up onto the balls of the feet. Once, slight lift of your heels twice, and then stay down for the third time. Wind up. It's a real nice deep moving across and close. Sink. Second time, just letting that charge lift you from the pelvis, wind up and back across to the right and close. Slight pause and sink, up, up and down and wind up and close and sink. And down and wind up and close. And one last time, let's just sink, sink, and wind up, close, and then the same thing again. Up, lifting within you, and then really staying down. It's like the whole opposite end of it here. And close. Great. And then we'll finish with perpetual motion taffy. So here you go with your wind up and a bit of a sinking, and get those feet nicely planted, and then slight lift with your toe, and the rest of your foot follows with that back foot as your hand sweeps across. So there's this really nice kind of energetic lifting that happens as the back hand sweeps across and the foot comes up with it. They kind of go together. It's like they're saying, come on to that back foot, come along with me as they sweep across. This really gives you a chance to kind of feel that energy staying down and how perhaps your shoulders can start to kind of get opened by the movement as you get that feeling of dropping through the spine. We'll do 2 more sets of this. So across and back. And just to really find yourself in it, one last time, across and back and close. Something really important in that kind of and close place that just lets the charge drop. And then we'll come into our cosmic consciousness pose. So up onto the heel, left hand on the inside. Let that right knee just go soft a little bit. It doesn't have to be too bent, but just go soft so it's not tense and holding. And then just really get a sense of how your foot can support that through your leg. And just let your pelvis reorganize a little bit around how the relationship between this left leg and its position and the right leg and its holding position, supporting position is. And then just following with your mind's eye from your pelvis up through your spine, so you kind of get, if there's any places you're holding, right up into your neck, and then just notice how your chin might want to shift your awareness if it drops just a bit, so your gaze can be between your fingers. And then your attention coming down into that whole lower belly, Danchen area. And now, after this length of practice and these particular movements, where is the place where you get that sense of engagement down into that area? And engaging down into that area, how does it help you connect once more through the center from the top of you all the way down into the floor, and just organizes you in space in this moment? How is it that I am here in this moment? And then just coming to a close. And thank you so much for joining with me with this, so that we all have a chance in community to connect a little bit more to finding our place in the world. Have a great week. Blessings on you all.